Ada's boots scraped in the dirt, her legs dragging as two men hauled her toward the cottonwood. The wind didn't care. It kept on blowing, stirring the dust around her face, sticking to the blood on her cheek. She wasn't crying anymore. There wasn't enough left inside for that. "You gonna say something, girl?" one of them asked, his voice thin and bitter. She didn't answer. They weren't worth it. The news hung like it had been waiting for her all along. Caleb Stroud sat his horse a few paces off, watching like he always did, quiet, sure, like death didn't mean much. Ada's knees hit the ground. Rough hands forced her up again. One of the boys tied her wrists. Too tight. He smiled. "You think he'll let you walk for this?" she asked, low, barely enough for him to hear. "You ain't walking nowhere." He spat back, yanking the rope. "Not after stealing from Caleb." "I didn't steal. I saw." The boy flinched, but only for a second. Stroud dismounted, slow. His boots hit the ground like hammers. He didn't look at her yet. "You saw too much," he said, brushing dust from his coat. "Should have kept your eyes shut." She stood on her own, somehow. "That treaty's a lie. No one's gonna hear about it." A flicker passed across his face. Not anger. Something colder. He nodded once, and the boy shoved her forward. The news settled rough against her neck, and the world shrank. Just the tree, the rope, and the sky above, too big and too empty. Caleb stepped closer, lifting her chin with 2 fingers. "You could have had a place. You chose this." Her lips parted, breath catching. "I chose not to be yours." A muscle in his jaw twitched. Then he turned away. The horse was brought, skittish. The men worked quick, practiced. She felt the coarse rope bite her skin. The sky blurred at the edges, too bright. A shout echoed from the ridge. A whistle, sharp and strange. Then chaos. The first arrow hit the boy holding the reins. He dropped, choking on blood. Another arrow hissed past, catching a second outlaw through the hand. Screams tore the still air. Ada staggered as the horse bolted, the rope pulling, breath snatched from her chest. Then the rope slackened. A shadow moved fast, cutting her down. Her body hit the ground hard, the breath ripped from her lungs. Gunfire. Shouts. She couldn't see. Dust and blood filled her mouth. Hands gripped her, lifting her again. She swung weakly, fists hitting nothing. "Easy," came a voice, deep, rough. Not Caleb. Her eyes opened, barely. A man, face painted with ash and earth, eyes like stone. He wasn't white. He wasn't one of them. "You're safe," he said. It didn't sound like a promise. She tried to speak, but darkness closed in, and the last thing she saw was the sky, turning gold at the edges. And his hands scarred, holding her like something worth saving. The fire cracked low, its light flickering across rough stone and darker shadows. Ada stirred, her body stiff, throat raw. The rope had left its mark, a band of pain she couldn't quite swallow down. Her eyes opened slow, adjusting to dim light and silence. He sat nearby, crouched by the flames, back turned. She didn't move at first. Just watched. His shoulders were broad, his skin dark like the earth, muscles coiled tight. A bandage wrapped his upper arm, stained dark. She remembered blood. She remembered falling. "Where?" Her voice cracked, barely a whisper. He didn't turn. "Quiet." Her mouth tasted of dirt. She pushed herself up, the cold stone biting through the thin fabric of her shirt. "Who are you?" Still nothing. The fire popped. She coughed, the sound rough, tearing at her chest. He tossed her a canteen without looking. Water spilled as she drank too fast, choking. He didn't move. "You saved me," she said, wiping her mouth. "I did." She waited, expecting more, but it didn't come. The fire seemed louder now, the canyon walls holding every sound tight. "Why?" she asked. His head turned slightly, just enough for her to see the hard line of his jaw, the sharp edge of his cheek. "You wore something," he said. "It wasn't yours." Her hand moved to her wrist. The bracelet. Worn smooth, old. She hadn't thought about it in years, not since her mother died. You knew her? She asked. He stood slow. Walked past her, his steps soft but sure. I owe her. That's all. Ada looked down at the bracelet, turning it in her fingers. It didn't make sense. Nothing did. Where are we going? To someone who'll listen. There's no one left to listen. He looked at her then, eyes dark, steady. Judge Whitlock still does. She shook her head. Stroud will be there first. Then we go faster. Her legs trembled as she stood, the world spinning. He didn't offer help, just watched as she steadied herself. You have a name? She asked. Taza. She nodded, not sure if it mattered. The air was cold, biting. She pulled her coat tight. You don't trust me. I don't trust anyone. That seemed to satisfy him. He turned, leading the way into the dark, his steps silent on the stone. Ada followed, the bracelet heavy on her wrist, each breath a reminder that she should be dead. They moved through narrow paths, the moon casting silver light on the rock. Taza stopped often, listening. She didn't ask why. You know these men? He said once, after hours of silence. I rode with them. His face didn't change. And now? I want them gone. He nodded once. Good. They rested only when the sky began to pale. Ada sat on a rock, pulling her knees close. Taza kept watch, eyes scanning the ridge. They killed your family, didn't they? She asked, voice soft. He didn't answer. The silence was enough. I didn't know, she said. You know now. She looked away, the land stretching wide and empty. You think we'll make it? Taza didn't move. The land remembers. It sees everything. And it doesn't forget. Ada didn't know what that meant, not really. But the way he said it, she felt it deep, under the skin, like the land itself was watching. When he moved again, she followed. There was nothing else to do. The sun wasn't up yet, but the air was warming, thick with the scent of sagebrush and dust. Ada's legs burned from walking, her throat dry despite the water she sipped sparingly. Taza moved ahead of her, silent as ever, pausing now and then to study tracks she couldn't see. She hated the quiet. It gave her too much space to think. About the way Stroud looked at her when he gave the order. About the way the others didn't stop him. About how easy it was to fall in with them when she had no one else. You keep looking back, Taza said, his voice low. I'm not. You are. She didn't answer, just kept moving, eyes on his back. She didn't want to talk. Didn't want to explain why she stayed with men like that. Why she let it go on. They stopped at a narrow creek, the water running clear over smooth stones. Taza crouched, dipping his hands in, drinking straight from the stream. Ada knelt beside him, careful not to meet his eyes. How much farther? She asked. 2 days. If we keep moving. She splashed water on her face, wincing at the cold. Her hands shook a little, though she tried not to let him see. You're sure Whitlock will listen? He always has. What if he's bought off now? Like the rest. Taza stood, shaking water from his hands. Then we'll find someone else. She watched him, trying to read him. But his face gave nothing away. She didn't know what kept him going. She barely knew why she was still here herself. A twig snapped. Taza froze, hand moving to the knife at his waist. Ada didn't breathe. Her eyes scanned the trees. Voices, faint but closing in. Taza grabbed her arm, pulling her low. He pointed toward the rocks above the creek. They climbed quick, feet scrambling over loose stone, the air tight in Ada's chest. They crouched behind a ledge, peering down. 3 men. Stroud's scouts. One of them she knew, Deke, a loud-mouthed bastard who laughed when they tied the noose. Thought you said she was dead, one of them muttered. She is, Deke snapped. Told you. Stroud saw her hangin'. She ain't walkin' after that. You sure? You wanna go ask him? They kicked around the creek bed, eyes sharp. Tracks here, one said, crouching. Deke frowned. Damn it! They moved off, following the trail the wrong way. Taza exhaled slow. Ada's heart pounded so loud she was sure they'd hear it. When the outlaws disappeared into the trees, Taza stood, offering his hand. She didn't take it. You should have let me kill them, she whispered. He didn't respond, just started walking again. Hours passed before Ada spoke. They'll know soon, she said. They'll always know. Ada stopped, breath hitching. You don't get it. I rode with them. I laughed with them. She couldn't finish. Taza turned, eyes hard. You rode because you were alone. I stayed. So did I. She didn't expect that. Her anger faded, leaving something colder. What happened to them? Your family. Gone. She waited, but he kept walking. Stroud? She asked. He didn't turn. Him. Others. Ada swallowed, throat tight. I didn't know. You know now. The land stretched wide before them, silent but watching. Ada followed, the weight of it heavy on her back. The town came into view just as the sky turned gold, the kind of light that made everything look softer than it was. Silver Crossing, a place with more graves than homes, more silence than life. Taza stopped on the ridge, eyes on the dust-choked streets, the rooftops bowed with time. Ada came up beside him, chest heaving from the climb. You sure he's here? She asked, squinting at the cluster of buildings. He never left. They didn't wait. The trail down was rough, and the town didn't welcome strangers. Windows shuttered as they passed. Ada felt eyes on her, the kind that weighed, judged. She kept her head down. The courthouse stood in the center, not much more than a square building with a cracked bell tower. Taza pushed the door open, the sound hollow. Inside, dust floated in shafts of morning light. A man sat behind the desk, gray hair, shoulders stooped but eyes sharp as iron. Taza Nez, the judge said, standing. Didn't think I'd see you again. Taza nodded once. Got something you need to hear. The judge looked at Ada, his gaze narrowing. And her? She knows where the rot starts. Whitlock didn't move, just motioned to the chairs. Sit. Speak. Ada sat slow, her legs aching. She reached into her coat, pulling out the folded paper, edges torn, smudged with dirt and blood. This, she said, laying it down. This is what Stroud's killing for. Whitlock picked it up, reading in silence. His brow furrowed, mouth tight. He looked older now, lines deeper. Forged, he muttered. I figured. He's clearing land, Taza said. For the railroad. I know what he's doing. Ada leaned forward, voice low. You gonna stop it? The judge looked at her, eyes steady. You think standing here makes you clean? No, she said. But it makes me right. Silence. Then Whitlock folded the paper, slipping it into his vest. He'll come for you. He already did. Footsteps sounded outside. Taza moved to the window, watching. Just townsfolk, shifting in the street, glancing toward the courthouse. You trust them? Ada asked. I trust they hate Stroud more than they fear him, Whitlock said. Taza turned. Where's Greeley? In the jail. What's left of it? They crossed the street quick, eyes watching from doorways. The jail was near empty, just a man inside, leaning on a cane, eyes dull. Marshal, Taza said. The old man looked up, surprise flickering. You're still breathing. Need your help. The marshal laughed, bitter. Not much left of it. You can still shoot? He tapped the rifle by his side. Enough. Ada stepped forward. We need men. You got ghosts and dust. Taza shook his head. We have truth. The marshal stared, then stood, slow but firm. Then let's wake the town. By midday, word spread. Stroud was coming, and with him, fire. The townsfolk gathered, wary, clutching old rifles, tools turned to weapons. Ada stood in the center, facing them. She didn't beg. She didn't plead. She just told them what she knew. Stroud's taken everything from me, she said, voice clear. I let him. Not anymore. Some turned away, but others nodded. Enough. Taza watched her, silent. When she finished, he stepped forward. This land remembers, he said. It's time we do the same. And with that, they waited. The wind shifted, carrying dust and the low thrum of hooves. Taza stood at the edge of town, eyes fixed on the horizon. Ada was behind him, rifle in hand, the weight unfamiliar but steady. The others were scattered, some behind wagons, others in doorways, faces pale but set. A single rider appeared first, then more, the shapes growing as the sun beat down. Stroud didn't bring many. He didn't need to. Men like him counted on fear to do most of the work. Taza didn't move when they stopped at the edge of the street. Stroud dismounted, slow, brushing his coat like he was meeting an old friend. His eyes found Ada first. Didn't think you had it in you, he called, voice easy. Ada didn't answer. She lifted the rifle, barrel steady. Stroud smiled. Put that down, girl. You won't like what happens if you don't. Taza stepped forward, calm. She won't have to. Stroud's gaze shifted. You again. Should have finished you the first time. You missed your chance. Stroud's hand rested on his belt, near the gun, but he didn't draw. I came for what's mine. The paper. Give it over, and we'll leave this town standing. You'll leave nothing, Ada said, voice flat. Stroud laughed. You think these folks will bleed for you? A murmur rippled through the town, but no one stepped back. Judge Whitlock appeared behind them, the treaty in hand. This town stands with her, the judge said, loud enough to carry. Stroud's face darkened. He looked at his men, then back at the crowd. Last chance, he said. Marshal Greeley stepped out, rifle raised. No more chances, Caleb. The silence was thick, tight. Then a shot rang out, not from Stroud, but one of his men, panicked. The town erupted. Taza moved first, pulling Ada behind cover as bullets tore through the street. The townsfolk fired back, clumsy but fierce. Stroud's men pushed forward, but they didn't know the ground like Taza did. He moved like the wind, cutting through the chaos, his knife finding one man, then another. Ada stayed low, firing when she could, her heart pounding but her aim true. Stroud charged toward the courthouse, eyes on the judge. Whitlock stood firm, but his hands trembled. Ada saw him too late. Taza! She screamed. Taza turned, saw Stroud raise his gun. He ran, feet pounding, but the shot came first. The judge staggered, falling back. Ada fired, the shot tearing into Stroud's shoulder. He didn't fall. He turned on her, gun lifted. Then Jonas stepped from the shadows, pistol in hand. Stroud froze. You gonna shoot me too? Stroud growled. Jonas didn't speak. He pulled the trigger. Stroud crumpled, dust rising around him. The gunfire slowed, then stopped. The outlaws, seeing their leader down, scattered, leaving behind the dead and dying. Taza knelt by the judge, blood dark on the wood. Still breathing. Whitlock gasped. Get it done. Taza nodded. Ada stood in the street, the rifle slipping from her hands. The fight was over, but nothing felt easy. Taza met her eyes. It's done, she said. No, he replied. It starts now. The town was quiet now, but not peaceful. Smoke hung in the air, mixing with the scent of blood and dust. The sun dipped low, casting long shadows across broken windows and torn earth. Ada walked through it slow, each step heavy, each face she passed marked by something lost. Taza stood by the steps of the courthouse, watching the horizon like he was waiting for something. The judge lay inside, still breathing, but the color had drained from his face. Ada joined him, pulling her coat tighter though the air was still warm. Whitlock won't last, she said, not looking at him. No. He did what he could. So did you. She shook her head, eyes stinging. I let it get this far. You stopped it. The words didn't settle right. Nothing did. The treaty lay on the judge's desk now, no longer hidden, no longer just words. The railroad would come, but not here, not now. That was something. You'll leave? She asked. Taza nodded. Nothing more to hold me. She glanced around at the ruins of the street, the people trying to put pieces back together. You sure? He didn't answer, just stepped down, walking slow toward the edge of town. Ada followed. They stopped at the graveyard, where fresh earth waited. She knelt by one, her hand resting on the mound. I never knew why she kept the bracelet, Ada said. She remembered. I didn't. Taza crouched beside her, pulling something from his pocket. A small, carved stone, worn smooth. Give it to the land, he said. Ada took it, placing it in the soil, pressing it down. The earth was cool, solid. They sat in silence until the sky turned dark, stars blinking through. What will you do now? She asked. Walk. That's not much. It's enough. She stood, brushing dirt from her hands. If you ever come back. He looked at her, waiting. There'll be a place. He nodded once. That was all. In the morning, he was gone, the dust of his trail already fading. Ada stood at the edge of town, watching the road stretch wide and empty. The fight was over, but the land wasn't finished. It never was. She turned back, the weight of memory still there, but lighter now. The land remembers. And so would she.